armed police officers with rifles drawn entered his bedroom live on camera after a fake emergency caller reported a homicide. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're investigating a deeply disturbing trend that is literally weaponizing our emergency response systems.
Okay, let's dive right into this. What you just heard, that wasn't some scripted scene from a Hollywood action movie. And it's for sure not a harmless internet prank. We're talking about a highly coordinated, calculated, and lethal federal crime known as swatting. Today, we are breaking down the dark mechanics of this whole phenomenon. We're going to look at how public figures are being ruthlessly targeted, the massive strain this puts on law enforcement, and the devastating, sometimes fatal, real-world consequences that ripple out into entire communities. We'll examine the hard data, the criminal statutes, and the extreme public safety risks created by these hoax calls. Section 1. Armed Police on Livestream. The Targeting of Adin Ross. To truly grasp just how severe this issue is, we really need to look at a harrowing, high-profile case. Picture this. It's August 7th. Popular streamer Adin Ross is broadcasting live to thousands of fans from what should be the safety of his own home. Suddenly, out of nowhere, his house is raided by a tactical unit of heavily armed police. His viewers watched in absolute shock in real time as officers entered his room with their rifles drawn. And this wasn't just an isolated incident. Ross has been swatted at least 5 times since he started streaming. 3 of those terrifying incidents happened in a single month. The psychological toll of that repeated trauma is just immense. He was visibly frustrated, telling his stream he honestly felt like crying after being targeted yet again. But here's what makes this crime uniquely sinister: the psychology behind the screen. In a super rare instance, Adin actually confronted the guy allegedly responsible during a live Discord call. When Ross pointed out, "Hey, I genuinely could have been killed during that raid," the attacker's response was chillingly dismissive. Quote, you were scared for your life. You thought you were gonna die. That shit's funny as fuck." It is a stark, incredibly unsettling look at the sociopathic amusement these threat actors get from inflicting genuine trauma and unleashing maximum chaos on unsuspecting people. And the motives behind these life-threatening attacks, they are shockingly petty and honestly just wildly malicious. During that same confrontation, the swatter actually revealed why he ordered the raid. Basically, he targeted Ross simply because the streamer hadn't responded to his Discord direct messages. Seriously, he warned he'd get Ross's door bashed in just for ignoring him online. On top of that, Ross revealed another deeply disturbing motive. The swatter threatened to keep the attacks coming until Ross stopped featuring Black people on his stream. So we're seeing a blatant, incredibly dangerous racist agenda underlying the harassment here. And get this, the attacker wasn't even operating in the shadows out of fear. He casually admitted to swatting other massive creators, including Kai Cenat and iShowSpeed. He openly bragged that the recordings of these armed police raids were up on YouTube for the whole world to see, which just goes to show the terrifying sense of impunity these attackers feel when targeting multiple high-profile victims. Section 2. Anatomy of a swatting attack. The mechanics. So how exactly does someone sitting behind a keyboard manage to send a heavily armed tactical unit to your front door? Well, it requires a specific set of digital tools and a deeply invasive 5-step process to trick 911 dispatchers into thinking a catastrophe is unfolding. Step 1. A target is selected. This is usually a public figure, a politician, or a high-profile internet personality. Step 2 involves doxing. The attacker scours public records, data brokers, massive data leaks, or even the dark web to piece together the victim's exact physical address. Now, step 3 is the critical point of deception. The swatter uses sophisticated voice-over IP and spoofing tech to call 911 or non-emergency police lines, totally masking their real identity and location. They might even tweak the caller ID to make it look like the call is coming from the victim's own cell phone. Then they present a highly plausible, fabricated emergency. They'll be screaming about a hostage situation, an active shooter, or a bomb threat. Step 4. Believing lives are instantly at stake, dispatchers send a SWAT team or heavily armed officers. And finally, Step 5. The armed confrontation. This is where police forcefully enter a home to neutralize a deadly threat that, well, simply doesn't exist. Section 3. The extreme physical dangers, wasted resources, and fatal outcomes. The extreme physical dangers of that final step absolutely cannot be overstated, mainly because they have tragically led to fatal outcomes. Let's look at an infamous case in Wichita, Kansas. Police responded to a fake report of a hostage situation and a shooting, an attack orchestrated over a totally petty $1.50 bet in a Call of Duty match. Police surrounded the targeted house. When a completely innocent man stepped out onto his porch to see what the commotion was, totally unaware of some online dispute, police fatally shot him. There is a massive, fatal disconnect between what the perpetrator intends and actual reality.
What a threat actor sitting thousands of miles away thinks is just an edgy internet prank is, literally, a lethal public safety threat. Think about Adin Ross's situation for a second. As he told his swatter, he has armed private security guards stationed on his property. If heavily armed police rush onto a property where private security is also heavily armed, confused, and totally unaware of the hoax, man, the risk of a deadly, catastrophic shootout skyrockets instantly. The swatter's casual belief that their victim is just going to be fine completely ignores the adrenaline-fueled, hair-trigger reality of these tactical encounters.
And beyond the immediate, terrifying danger to the victim, there's a massive amount of collateral damage. This really illustrates the wider financial and public safety impact on an entire city. Swatting doesn't just hurt the person whose door is getting kicked in. According to a Maryland task force report, a single swatting incident can cost a local law enforcement agency an estimated $15,000 in just a few hours. It burns through immense manpower and ties up critical public safety infrastructure. But here's the most dangerous part. It diverts police and EMTs away from real, life-threatening emergencies happening elsewhere in the city. If a tactical unit is speeding across town for a hoax, they aren't available for a real heart attack, a real car crash, or a real violent crime. The entire community's safety is completely compromised. Section 4. Law enforcement and FBI countermeasures. Now, recognizing this escalating crisis, federal and local authorities are no longer just writing these off as nuisance calls. They are actively organizing to prevent swatting and aggressively tracking down the perpetrators hiding behind their digital anonymity. In May of 2023, the FBI took a major step. They launched the National Common Operation Picture, or NCOP-VCC. See, previously, there was absolutely no nationwide unified government approach to tracking this problem. Local police departments were totally siloed. That made it super easy for a swatter in one state to hit victims in 10 different jurisdictions without anyone connecting the dots. But this new national database, it acts like a virtual command center. It allows police departments and fusion centers, which are basically state-owned intelligence sharing hubs, across the whole country to collaborate, track, and share swatting data in real time. This is a game changer, because it helps investigators instantly spot patterns, like a swatter reusing the exact same audio script across multiple state lines. Additionally, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, has stepped in to provide specific, actionable response guidance. And this is absolutely crucial because swatters aren't just sticking to internet celebrities anymore. They've increasingly started targeting election workers, politicians, schools, and critical infrastructure. When you start targeting the democratic process and vital infrastructure, a dangerous crime instantly escalates into a matter of national security. CISA outlines strict practices for both potential high-profile victims and law enforcement agencies so they can safely manage and verify these highly volatile situations before a tactical unit kicks a door down.
Now, what's really interesting here is the concept of premise alerts, which is a major tactical shift. CISA recommends that likely targets proactively register with their local police department. This lets dispatchers set a flag in their CAD system that stands for Computer-Aided Dispatch, which is basically the digital nervous system dispatchers use to manage 911 calls. So if a high-risk, catastrophic 911 call comes in for an address that's flagged with a premise alert, dispatchers are immediately notified of the high swatting risk. They can then call a verified, pre-arranged alternate phone number to check if the emergency is actually real before deploying a SWAT team. The CISA guidelines also emphasize the need to record and preserve all call audio to catch forensic clues. Plus, they mandate specialized training for dispatchers so they can spot inconsistencies, weird background noise, or unnatural phrasing in a swatter's story.
Section 5. The Criminal Swatting Statutes. Federal felonies.
For those who actually orchestrate these attacks, the legal hammer comes down incredibly heavy. Swatting is aggressively prosecuted under both state and federal law. Judges do not write this off as a misdemeanor prank. It is charged as a severe federal felony. When you look at the maximum federal sentences under statutes like the Interstate Communications Act, the gravity of the crime becomes crystal clear. Just providing the false information and causing the hoax, that carries a maximum sentence of up to 5 years in federal prison. If that SWAT raid escalates and results in serious bodily injury, the maximum sentence leaps to 20 years behind bars. And if a swatting hoax results in the death of a victim, like we saw in the tragic Wichita case, the perpetrator can face up to life in prison. And these aren't just empty threats printed on paper to scare teenagers. The justice system is actively making examples of these threat actors. Just recently, a 21-year-old serial swatter named Ashton Connor Garcia was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Another teenager, Alan Fillion, was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for orchestrating hundreds of fake threats. The federal government has made it abundantly clear. They are hunting down and locking up the perpetrators of this digital violence.
But as we close out this explainer, we are left with a critical, ongoing dilemma. 911 dispatchers and responding police officers have fractions of a second to make life or death decisions based on the information coming through a headset. So the question remains, how can law enforcement agencies accurately verify threats and prevent swatting without fatally delaying their response to a genuine, real-world emergency where every single second counts? It's an incredibly difficult, high-stakes balancing act that public safety officials are forced to face every single day. Thank you for joining me for this investigation into the mechanics and intense dangers of swatting. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to understand the objective facts behind the headlines, be sure to subscribe for crime and media case files. We'll see you in the next explainer.